Okay, we're going to talk about Nutriverus today, or this morning, I should say, get my time zones fixed. Before we start on Nutriverus, let's get some clarification, which works perfect with what Sharon had just started to say. This is perfect because this is an explanation I think everyone needs to know about the purpose of this call and how you how you should be framing your information when you talk to others around the world. Remember, we are an international company, and we do have associates in 26 countries. That number will grow eventually, of course. But for now, what we have is a situation where you have to be aware of regulations as you go to each country. Any of you can make contact with anyone, and that's being done so much now through the internet in any of the 26 countries, and introduce our products to them. But you must always be sure that when you do that, that you are following the regulations of that country. That is super important. Because if you don't do that, well, there can be consequences if that's not done well. So I want to tell you a little story which probably you all know some version of. In the U.S., we call it the fish story. And perhaps you call it the fish story there as well. But the story starts out something like this. Jack goes fishing. He catches a nice fish. It's about, 10 centimeters in length. It's pretty good size. And he's all proud of himself. He comes home, tells his friend Bill, and Bill's impressed. And he goes and tells another fella, did you know that Jack caught a fish today that was 20 centimeters long? And then that person tells another person is, you know what? I heard that Jack today caught a fish that was 40 centimeters long. Well, as the story keeps getting told, the fish keeps growing until eventually it seems that Jack has single-handedly swam into the bay and wrestled a great white shark back to the beach. So that's the way the fish story works. The idea is often people don't have the right information to begin with, but even if they do, they may not give that information accurately to a second person. And it only takes just a little bit of a change on that story before the second person, the third person, the fourth person now has a completely different story. And we want to make sure that doesn't happen. Now, the reason that I preface that for this particular call is because Nutriverus was part of a program that began with a product called Phytomatrix, and also something that we use to feed kids around the world called Phyto Blend. And there has been misunderstanding, misinformation about it. So I want to make sure that all of you are accurate in representing this product in the future. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this product came about. Then we'll get into the actual training part, and I'll do what I always do for you, and that is we'll talk about the various ingredients, okay? Because I like to do that. I think that's a really important thing for us to do for you. And it really helps you then to represent the product to others. And again, important that you represent the products accurately. Extremely important. All right, so how did this product come about? Well, first of all, we had started making a product called Phytomatrix. That's a product that isn't sold in a lot of countries anymore. And the concept was to grow the minerals, not the vitamins, just the minerals, from hydroponic bays. And that's the way it was done for several years. And from that, we created what is called Phyto Blend, where we combined the minerals grown hydroponically from the Indian mustard seeds. We combined that with vitamins, which were all food form, food sourced, but they were not grown from the Indian mustard plant hydroponically. And that was the first piece of misinformation that people misunderstood. So then this formulation together in our lab. We called it Phyto Blend, and we still use the term Phyto Blend to describe the food which we are giving to children all over planet Earth to help them with their nutritional needs, children who are in desperate need of proper nutrition. Oh my gosh, so many kids, literally millions of kids need this help. So we started doing that through our M5M program that we're very proud of. And we are helping just tremendous numbers of kids around the planet using Phyto Blend. Well, then someone in the marketing department was observing the way things are sold. That's part of what marketing people are supposed to do, by the way. And noticed that it seems that companies that try and sell something marketing as an all-in-one seem to have more success than companies that are selling systems or bundles or whatever. Well, there are some basic problems with trying to do all-in-ones. The basic problem is it's pretty darn difficult to put everything you need into one product. In fact, I feel it's impossible. But that was the concept. So our marketing person at the time said, hey, let's make a phytomatrix type product from our Phyto Blend powder. And this will be an all-in-one product, and then we'll just sell it all over the world as a global formula. It is, to this day, Manatech's only global formula still, our only one, because making a global formula is almost impossible. You see, regulators in each country, they all have their own ideas about things that are good or bad, or you should have it or you shouldn't have it. And in some countries, we can't use some ingredient sources or even some certain ingredients at all. And in some countries, the labeling regulation, so that's a regulatory thing, that confuses people as well. So I get a fair number of emails on a fairly regular basis from countries around the world, from people who will read the Nutriverus label in their country and wonder why it's different than the Nutriverus label in the United States. So I want everybody to know that Nutriverus is Nutriverus. So it is a global formula, and what you have in Australasia is the same thing that we have in the United States, but your label is different because the rules in Australasia are different than they are in the United States. So things have to be listed differently, and there are some ingredients that are not listed on your label at all because they got their approvals in through the Australian TGA as food, as opposed to individual nutrition ingredients. So the food is listed, but the ingredient is not. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But I want everyone to understand this accurately before we begin going through the list of ingredients. So your labels are different. There's no question about that. But you have the stuff that I will be talking about ingredient by ingredient, even though a few of those things you don't see on the label at all. And when I get to those, I will tell you, okay, this is part of the stabilized rice bran, or this is part of the whey mineral formula, and so on, okay? So we'll get each of those as we go down the list. So the next thing is the marketing people said, well, we'll make the all-in-one product and we should do really well. At the time, there was a competitor who was selling a so-called all-in-one product, and it turned out after they were independently analyzed by an independent laboratory that it had almost nothing in it that it had listed on the label, but they had managed to make almost $1 billion US before they got caught, and they went out of business because the average person loves the idea of everything's in one thing. In fact, according to psychological surveys, more than 90% of people who are willing to take a supplement of some type are only willing to take one thing. So they want you to sell them something that they think represents every nutritional category known in the universe in one product. Well, folks, that's a tall order. That's a really tall order. But this was the purpose of the product, to make a global formula which represented the broadest possible spectrum of nutrients, and all from food source, of course, and that this product then would be something that for those people who will only buy one product, they'll do nothing else, then this would be that one product that would work for them in the way they think. And as far as I'm concerned, if you go from zero nutritional supplementation to nutritional supplementation with the broad spectrum that we have in Nutriverus, you have just raised the bar about 1,000% for that person. Now, I think of Nutriverus as an entry-level product because for me, as a healthcare practitioner, and I've seen just about everything over more than 40 years now, I like to get people on a package of supplements. Call it a bundle, call it a system, call it whatever you like. But I like to have people really well fortified with a very broad spectrum of nutrients in amounts significantly high enough to really make a difference for them with all the stresses for the 21st century. Well, what we have with Nutriverus as an entry-level product, there is no possibility that you could take all of the nutrients that you find in your Catalyst product, as an example, and put them in there at the same level in a powdered form in the same container, plus all of the ambertose that we'd want to give them. I mean, your container would be really big, your product would be really expensive, and you just can't get that job done. So my preference is that everybody go on a system, that you're on an optimal health system. And for many years in Australasia, you've been saying Core 5, which works fine for me. So you make sure that you've got your Catalyst, your ambertose, your plus, of course, you don't want to miss your plus, your AO, the best antioxidant formula in the world, as validated by human clinical testing through serum ORAC. And you want to also be taking your omega-3. So you have these components. That's why I prefer it. But keep in mind that according to surveys, more than 90% of people are only going to buy one product. They're not going to buy a system. But every human being on planet Earth needs our help. Make no mistake. I don't care how well somebody thinks they eat. If you live on planet Earth in the 21st century, you are breathing, drinking, coming in contact with all manner of chemicals which are bad for your health, which are stressful to your health. And things are so stressful on planet Earth right now. And some people will say, well, things aren't more stressful. We just now have a 24/7 news cycle and social media and mobile phones in our hands almost every hour of the day. So this is why everybody's so aware and even more stressed today than any human being ever was previously. Well, that may be correct too. I'm not sure which one is correct, but what I can tell you is that people are certainly getting more stress stimuli today than ever before in the history of the human race. Stress causes you to burn up various nutrients faster, and stress contributes to all manner of health issues. So when you're under stress, the more stress you're under, the more you need nutritional supplementation. Anyone who believes, and I know there are still some people out there who believe, even though the studies are showing us something different, but they're not aware of those studies. They haven't read them. They're not aware of them. So, but if you believe that diet alone provides everybody with everything they need under all conditions, you're living in a fantasy world, because that's just not the case. So, right now we've got human blood studies as an example, and that's the best way to do it as far as I'm concerned, where they've tested for vitamins at random, and almost everyone tested, they came up deficient in numerous vitamins, some very severely, some less severely. Same thing in tests with minerals, same thing in tests with various other nutrients. So it's simply not reasonable to say that everybody's getting everything from diet. So even if you, as an associate, can do someone a great, great favor by starting them, they're only going to take one product. They're going to tell you that, I'm only going to take one thing. I want everything all together. All right. Well, you make that one thing Nutriverus. That's where you get them started with. Now, the levels of various nutrients in Nutriverus, and we have to be accurate here, they're not nearly as strong as you will find them in Catalyst. And of course, the amount of ambrotose, although there is ambrotose in it, and I'll break that down for you in the next few minutes, the amount of ambrotose is nowhere near what I believe every human being should be taking every day. But the problem is, if we have a full serving of ambrotose, 4 grams of ambrotose, well, now you've just raised the cost of Nutriverus by a container of ambrotose. So I hope you understand what I'm saying here. So what we've done with Nutriverus is everybody's getting some of all the things they need. And I'd rather see that happen than people not getting any of the things they need. And once again, you will have people that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how hard you try, they're simply not going to buy more than one product. So then Nutriverus is that product. Okay. Now you'll see that, and I want this clear for you too, about 2 years ago, we had to change our suppliers for our Phyto Blend powder because the man that we had our initial contract with, who is just a brilliant grower. I mean, he really knew his stuff, and he was producing great stuff for us. He decided to retire. He sold his operation to a couple of young fellas who didn't seem to be all that interested in doing a good job, and we couldn't have that. Now, at Manatech, we have our own safety and quality lab. That's very unusual in our industry, and we check every batch because we want to make sure that what we say is in that container is actually in that container. And so we started checking the batches coming from these new fellas, and it just, well, they just were letting us down. So we had to discontinue our relationship with them. And now the minerals, so they're not hydroponically grown anymore, so don't tell that story because that doesn't happen anymore, okay? So now the minerals most of the minerals come from nutritional yeast, brewer's yeast, and some of the minerals come from other complexes. But this is why on your sales literature in Australasia, it will say all ingredients are naturally sourced. And we can use terms like source from food and that sort of thing, okay? So make sure that you are accurate with that. The vitamins were never grown hydroponically, as I mentioned earlier, and they're still not. But everything is food form, and that's one of the attractive things about Nutriverus that people seem to like about this product so much. Okay, so hopefully we've got all that out of the way. Let's talk a little bit about the ingredients now. So with Nutriverus, you have a combination of complexes. I kind of think of it like it's 4 products inside of one product is kind of the way I see it. So you have a full glyconutrient blend, and this is all of the glyconutrients that are found in ambrotose, all that are found in ambrotose complex, as well as some wakame, which of course has been marketed in advanced ambrotose, but not in the complex. And it is also marketed in the Ambrotose Life product, which is not in every country yet, but it's in many countries. So you have the full glyconutrient complex, but the level is much lower. So you're talking about a total, the combination of the glyconutrient blend and the phytonutrient blend, that combination is about 1.5 grams per serving, per recommended serving. Now remember, we want you to have 4 grams of ambrotose every day. So as far as I'm concerned, this product does not replace your daily ambrotose. However, for people who, once again, are only going to buy one product, at least they're getting some ambrotose this way, and that makes me happy. So I think that's a good thing. We have an antioxidant blend in this. Now, the antioxidant blend is not the AO blend, so don't tell everyone that it is, because it's not. It is an excellent antioxidant blend. The AO blend is considerably more expensive. The AO blend is a specifically patented blend. This product, by the way, Nutriverus has a number of patents on it right now. So it's also a patented product. But there are different sort of patents within the patents kind of thing. You do have a complete spectrum of antioxidant protection in here. In fact, you have more than the average antioxidant formula because of our fruit and vegetable blends, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. So when you combine the fruit blend, the vegetable blend, and our stabilized rice bran, that forms the base of the powder, which is what we call our real food base. In the fruit blend, which is organic, we have a strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, tart cherry, pomegranate, and cranberry. And we chose tart cherry for a reason. I'll explain that to you in a moment. In our vegetable blend, we have broccoli, broccoli sprouts, tomato, carrot, spinach, and kale. Those two blends are there because we want you to have not just vitamin and mineral found in those things, we want you to have something called phytochemical. Phyto comes from an ancient Greek word, which means plant. So when a scientist says to you phytochemical or phytonutrient, what they mean is a specific type of nutrient, which is not a vitamin or a mineral or amino acid. It's its own category of nutrition, and it is specifically plant-derived. And there are certain types of phytonutrients which do things that vitamins and minerals don't do. And this is why it's extremely important for a human being's health to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, which very few people do, according to current surveys. So that then, those two blends, those two organic blends are put into our stabilized rice bran. Stabilized rice bran is pretty interesting because it is a nutritional product all by itself. This goes back to the discovery, believe it or not, of the first vitamin, which was called vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. And this was more than 100 years ago. And the scientist who discovered it, he wasn't looking to discover a vitamin because, well, there weren't any yet. Nobody knew what a vitamin was before he discovered it. And what he was doing is he was observing people who were very healthy versus people who were getting very sick, and some of them even dying. And what he observed, and he was looking at people in Thailand, and what he observed is that people who ate rice with the husk, where what they did in ancient times is they used to soak the rice so that the husk got soft enough where when you chewed it, you could get the nutritional value from what's called the bran. I don't have a picture to show you, but these pictures are all over the place in the Manatech world, so you can find it, I'm sure. So the outer portion of rice, when you harvest a kernel of rice, is coated by a husk. Humans can't digest the husk. And it's a bit annoying to try and soak it to soften it. Then it's all chewy when you try and eat it that way. But the nutritional part of it is great because between the kernel that you think of as rice, when I say the word rice, and the husk is the bran. And in the bran are more than 100 different antioxidants and metabolic cofactors and trace elements and even plant sterols. In fact, there's so much plant sterol in it that it's legal to say a rich source of plant sterols. There are essential fatty acids in it, protein, of course, and all manner of mineral and vitamin, of course, all in the food form. So stabilized rice bran it's a food all by itself. Now, when we eat rice in a restaurant, at home, whatever, that's polished. So the husk and the bran have been taken off and left you with something that's considerably less nutritious than having it done the other way. And interestingly, with that historical story I was telling you, it was royalty, nobility, that was polishing the rice because they wanted to have, pretty soft rice versus those peasants who had to eat the nasty stuff. And it was the nobility that was getting sick because they weren't getting the bran. I find that fascinating. Anyway, so stabilized rice bran makes up a considerable part of our formula, a considerable part of that powder. When I say stabilized, the reason that people were not using rice bran until very recently is because it has essential fatty acids in it that occur naturally, and essential fatty acids will go rancid unless you preserve them in a particular way. So some scientists found a way to take the bran from rice to stabilize it using enzymes, and it can be used in a powder now as a source of nutrition. That is just great. It's tremendous. So in the bran, we also have we have a number of nutrients, especially the phytosterols that I mentioned. But these phytosterols are not the same as plus. So different, because there's all kinds of phytosterols in the plant sterol world. So I still strongly recommend that if you're using Nutriverus, that you still use plus. If your body gets what it needs from plus, you will not have that replaced by the phytosterols in Nutriverus, just so you understand that. Now we have our beta-carotene, again, plant source. So it is made from a fungi, because I get people that ask me all that all the time. There are fungi that are, or fungi, we should say, which are good for you, and some that are not good for you. So obviously we use the ones that are good for you. We are also sourcing vitamin C from acerola cherry as well as tart cherry. Again, I'll go back to the tart cherry in a minute. Our vitamin D is food sourced. And we also have vitamin E in addition to the naturally occurring vitamin E that occurs in the rice bran, which we have sourced from other vegetable sources as well. And on the mineral side of things, we have something called our Whey blend. Those of you who have used Choline, in Choline there is calcium, there is some magnesium and phosphorus and a little bit of iron. And that's all part of what we call our Whey blend. And that is exactly the same blend that you will find in Choline. And we use that as a source of calcium. The reason is we had a number of governments, including the Australasian government, or the Australian government in particular, because we use the rules of the TGA in Australasia, that didn't recognize the source of calcium that we wanted to use, which was a form of algae. It's a great source of calcium. And in fact, that's why the Phytomatrix product in Australasia had no calcium in it, because the TGA would not recognize the source. So we decided to use our Whey mineral blend around the world, so that we'd have a global formula, and that's where you get your calcium and your phosphorus. The iron there's a very, very tiny amount of iron in the product, but it occurs naturally in several of the plant sources, and you can't separate it out. So just so you understand that. Okay, so let's run down the list then, as the clock is ticking on our hour here. So in Ambritose, of course, you will see on any label that has Ambritose powder in it, you will see aloe vera inner leaf gel powder. Now, what does that mean? It means Manipul. Okay, for those of you who understand Manipul as a separate product, Manipul is our most important, and as far as I'm concerned, as a scientist and healthcare practitioner, the single most important nutritional ingredient on planet Earth for anybody. And so whenever you see Manipul in a product, you want the product just because there's Manipul in there. I'm serious. By the way, just to pass this on to everyone in case you folks don't know this, when I was in Costa Rica, I can't remember when I was there now, several weeks ago, I decided to do a Facebook Live. And what I did was I was inviting people to go with me through the process of creating Manipul, literally from the nursery, because we have a nursery down there where we've got all the aloe seedlings that are being just the little bitty aloe seedlings. And then we test them using DNA analysis. We have 2 DNA labs down there in Costa Rica. And we test them using DNA analysis to select superior aloe plants. Only the superior ones get then transplanted from the nursery to the growing fields. So when I did this, I started at the nursery. I went through all of the steps that could be shown. There are 2 rooms that I didn't show anyone because those 2 rooms are, I call them secret sauce rooms. And that's part of our proprietary process. No one's allowed to see it because we need to protect that technology and make sure no one else can imitate it, okay? But I pretty much took everybody through the process. It's a Facebook Live, so it's not professionally done, obviously. And I was really hot and uncomfortable down there, pretty uncomfortable. But you could enjoy that, I think. You will find that if you go to my Facebook page, which if you're on Facebook, you can go to Dr. Steve Nugent. So doctor as Dr. period Steve Nugent. That's the what Facebook calls a celebrity page. We are beginning to post my videos on there. We want to try and make that a one-stop shop for everybody. And that's one of the videos. So I certainly want you to be able to go there and understand how we make Manipul, why it's important. And, you know, it takes 660 kilograms of aloe leaf to make 1 kilo of Manipul. So it's quite a process, quite amazing. So whenever you see aloe vera inner leaf gel powder, that's Manipul, and you want some of that. In fact, you want as much of it as you can get as far as I'm concerned. Second on the list is Arabinogalactan. Arabinogalactan comes in 2 forms, a standard form and a premium form. The standard form, anybody can buy. The premium form is exclusive to Manitech. The premium form has been tested in human clinical studies. We know what a powerful immunomodulator it is. And because we have exclusive rights to it, we have the right to trademark it, and we have trademarked it as AmbroGuard. So if you hear me talking about AmbroGuard in the future, that's what I'm talking about. And this is an amazing immunomodulator. Between Manipul and AmbroGuard, those 2 things, you've got something really powerful for your immune system and other functions in your body as well. Okay, continuing down the list. I'm going to try and do this alphabetically so I don't get sidetracked and then miss something, okay? Biotin. So biotin is part of the B complex. It's important for a lot of things in your body. It is important for your metabolism. It is important for you to be able to metabolize carbohydrates effectively. And biotin occurs naturally in a number of foods. We have our biotin is in both the baker's yeast that we are getting most of the vitamins from, and also it's in the rice bran and the rice fiber, and we even have biotin in our organic fruit and vegetable powders. And once again, I've gone through all those powders, so I'm not going to go through those again. Doing this alphabetically, I've already talked to you about calcium. Well, people generally know that calcium is super important for their bones. In fact, 99% of all the calcium found in the human body is found in bones and teeth. But calcium is necessary for a lot of things that people may not be aware of. So, for instance, in order for your muscles to function, you need calcium to make them flex, and magnesium to make them relax. It's kind of complicated, but so you need it for a lot of things. Our Whey mineral complex, once again, is providing the phosphorus, magnesium, potassium, sodium, and iron, and that is added to this. We also have some amount of calcium, which is found in the stabilized rice bran. Now, in the stabilized rice bran, there is, of course, and naturally, this is all food, nutrition, all. So vitamin E, thiamine, which is vitamin B1, niacin, which is vitamin B3, vitamin B6, pantothenic acid, which is vitamin B5, quite a number of minerals, including iron and magnesium. And it's also a very good source of folate and riboflavin. Riboflavin is vitamin B2. And in fact, if anyone uses a dietary supplement that contains riboflavin, and their body doesn't need all the riboflavin that they have just consumed, then their urine will get more yellow than it normally is, and that's because riboflavin is extremely yellow. It's intensely yellow. So it's not that you are not absorbing your nutrients. Rather, what it means is your body will use the amount of water solubles that it needs during a given period of time. That period of time might be 4 hours. That period of time might be 6 hours. Whatever it is, you need a certain amount of water solubles during that period of time. If you have more in your system than you need, you will urinate it out. That's what water soluble nutrients, that's what it means when we say water soluble nutrients. Also in the rice bran, as I mentioned, the plant sterols, including a really important plant sterol that's known as beta-sitosterol. Beta-sitosterol is really, really important, particularly for male health, so for the prostate gland. Very, very important for that. And of course, there is some omega-3, but the omega-3 then is in the form of ALA, not in the form of EPA or DHA, as you would find, say, in fish oil, as an example. Let me see, make sure I'm in. Oh, I was going to tell you about tart cherry and sweet cherry. Okay, so the acerola cherry is more of a sweet cherry. We have specifically used tart cherries in this formula because tart cherries tend to be much higher in things called anthocyanidins. The anthocyanidins are very, very important for your antioxidant health, extremely important for that. Sweet cherries are normally used for a source of vitamin C, and of course we've done that in this formula as well. But the tart cherries are providing you with a lot of anthocyanidin, and that is a phytochemical, which is extremely important for fighting oxidative stress, and that's why we decided to use both of those forms of cherries in this formula. This is really quite a remarkable formula. I hope all of you are beginning to feel that as we run through this. Now, there's a nutrient called choline, which does not appear on your label. It is part of the stabilized rice bran, and it has it's some kind of a regulatory thing. I don't understand all the regulatory stuff. I've given up on regulators in different countries. I just try and help them do whatever it is they want to do so we can get the products out to the public. I used to fight it. I don't fight it anymore. Maybe it's because I'm just too old to fight about it now. I don't know. Anyway, so the choline is there. It's part of the stabilized rice bran. Choline's extremely important. It is technically part of the B complex. Some people will say it is not a vitamin. It is, it isn't. Depends on your definition, but it's typically part of the B complex. Choline is normally found in things like egg yolks, fish, milk, peanuts. There are a few vegetables. All meat has some amount of choline in it. Choline is hugely important for the health of your liver. Now, we don't make a claim of that sort for Australasia, so please, I don't want you to make that claim in Australasia, Okay. In countries where choline is listed on the label, then you can discuss it with the appropriate claims. But in Australasia, you may not. I'm simply doing a training call right now, and I want you to know what's there. And of course, I regularly get contact from people in countries outside of the U.S. where they say, how come our label is different than your label, and does our product have this in it as yours does? So that's why I'm giving you this information, so you've got the answer to that question. Chromium. Chromium is typically associated with normal healthy blood sugar or blood sugar regulation. No dietary supplement that is a vitamin mineral supplement could possibly be complete without chromium. Ours comes from baker's yeast, so it is a food form of chromium. Copper is something which is necessary for a variety of enzyme functions in the body, and it is also very important for certain genes, for gene expression. It's very important for mitochondrial function. So it has a lot of things that, I could spend some time on copper. We don't have that time for this call, but I could spend some time on that, telling you about the necessity of having copper in your diet. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's a delicious thing to eat, but you need to have it. And of course, once again, this is a food form. Okay. I mentioned already, because I'm thinking about the cranberry juice powder that we've got in this. Cranberry juice has so many interesting phytochemicals in it, and we're not making any claims in Australasia about this, but we decided to do it because of the different spectrum of phytonutrients in cranberries versus all of the other fruit that we put in our organic fruit blend. So folate, vitamin B9, you may see it listed as folate or folic acid. Folic acid is the synthetic form, folate is the food form. We elected to use folate because of the increasing number of people being found as gene studies are continuing, and I'm not sure if this is popular in Australasia or not. I'm sure you folks will let me know. In North America, people are getting their DNA done almost frantically. I mean, the numbers are now in the millions of people, and because they want to know about their ancestry and all that sort of thing. And of course, as they're getting their DNA done, we're finding more and more people who possess a gene defect that will simply not allow them to metabolize the synthetic form of folate, which is folic acid. So this is a methylation defect. I won't go into the technical side of that. But there are more people than we ever imagined who have that defect. So this is why we've chosen folate as our form of vitamin B9. Now, folate is extremely important for energy. It's important for the synthesis of nucleic acids and amino acids. So, I mean, it's really vital to your health, absolutely vital. You've heard about it in association with pregnancy, I'm sure, where it's extremely important there, obviously. And our folate is found we cultivate it from baker's yeast, but it also occurs naturally in our rice bran, and it occurs naturally in our rice fiber and our organic fruit and vegetable powders as well. Very interesting. Part of I talked about the ambritose idea because I'm trying to stay alphabetical for everybody here. Gum tragacanth is one of the plant gums that provides us with galactose, arabinose, xylose, fucose, rhamnose, and galacturonic acid. These are all critically important to the function of ambritose. And we use gum tragacanth and gum gatti for those two, and there's a crossover of the various glyconutrients there. Inositol, which is found in the rice bran, inositol is extremely important for the health of cell membranes and phospholipid function in the body. It's important for a number of other things. Inositol occurs naturally in a number of different foods. Interesting to note that it's found in human breast milk, and that must tell us that it's pretty important. So we made sure that it's in there. Personally, I love the combination of choline and inositol together. Those two nutrients together are a real dynamic duo. I mean, they really, really are important for your health. Again, no specific claims are being made on that. I just, again, this is a training call. There's a bit of iodine in here from baker's yeast as well. There will be a very trace amount of iodine from the wakame, and the wakame is, of course, the seaweed that we use for fucoidins, more glyconutrients, as found in the product Advanced Ambertose, also found in Ambertose Life. Again, Ambertose Life is not in every country yet, but eventually it will be. Magnesium, wow. I could give you 3 hours on magnesium. It is one of the most important minerals for human health. It's responsible for more than 600 functions in your body. It is necessary for your body to make at least 300 different enzymes. People think about magnesium as, oh, well, you just need that to break down your calcium. Folks, you need it for a lot more than that. A lot more. If you are low on magnesium, you cannot convert vitamin D from sunlight. If you are low on magnesium, you cannot actually absorb vitamin D into your tissues. So there's so many things that are interconnected nutritionally, like a children's connect the dot game, where one dot connects to another, to another, to another. And if you don't connect all the dots, well, you can't see what the picture is. And that's the case in nutritional biochemistry. Magnesium is huge. There have been studies in the United States. I haven't seen one for any of the 3 countries in Australasia, but humans are humans. The modern diet isn't drastically different from one country to another. Farming methods are not drastically different from one country to another. In the US, currently we know that at least 50% of people are deficient in magnesium. So yeah, that speaks to calcium, that speaks to vitamin D, that speaks to a whole lot of functions in your body, including the manufacture of something called GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. If your brain doesn't have magnesium, it can't make gamma aminobutyric acid. That will keep you from sleeping properly and having your proper restorative sleep, which is a whole different presentation we don't have time for today. But magnesium, wow, gotta have it. And we get that, that is in our rice bran. It's in our whey mineral complex. It's also in our rice fiber. And there's even some in our organic vegetable powders. Manganese, that's an essential mineral. An essential mineral means something your body cannot make, but you must have. So that means it has to come from food or food supplements. Manganese is critical to a number of enzyme functions in the body and bone health. People don't even think about manganese for bone health. They think about calcium, magnesium. You have to have your manganese. It's also critical to metabolize fat, and it's critical for the to metabolize carbohydrates. Niacin, which is vitamin B3. Niacin is typically associated, people think about cholesterol and so on. And yeah, that's the typical association. But it does a lot more than that, a lot more. It is a, it's a, how do I explain this? It's sort of like a carrier nutrient that helps to carry a lot of different functions to many different types of cells in the body. It gets kind of complicated, but it's really necessary in a lot of different and very important functions, particularly involved in metabolism. So not just, I mean, everybody can think about cholesterol if you like, but in terms of general metabolism. In fact, B vitamins overall are crucial for a healthy, normal metabolism. Ours comes from baker's yeast. It's also found naturally in the rice bran. There's a little bit in the organic fruit and vegetable powders as well. Pantothenic acid, which is B5, that's extremely important as a coenzyme for fat metabolism, for carbohydrate and protein metabolism, and also it's a crucially important nutrient for your adrenal glands. Ours comes from baker's yeast, rice bran. It's some in the rice fiber that's in the product as well, and a little bit in the organic fruit and vegetable powders as well. I've already talked to you about the phosphorus. That's in the whey mineral complex. We won't belabor that because my time is clicking away super fast. Let me see, what have I forgotten? The phytosterols I've talked about already. There is pomegranate juice powder in here for more antioxidant, more vitamin C, and that also has a little bit of folate in it, by the way. There's some potassium, which is in the whey mineral blend, but it's also in the rice fiber and the rice bran. So I hope I didn't forget anything. Maybe I did, but it's hard to remember going down the list. And we're just pretty much at the end of the call. So I'm going to turn this back over to Sharon.
Dr. Nugent, how amazing. I wish you could see the chat. We're just going on and they're in adoration of you and your knowledge and the level that you give to us. I do have a few questions if you have a few more minutes.
Sure.
Okay, so just a clarification from Lily. Did you say that there's approximately the same amount of ambertose in Nutriverus the serving? So you said 1.4 grams in Nutriverus and 1.3 in ambertose life?
No, I did not say that.
Okay.
And see that goes to my opening comments about the fish story. See what happens already?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, the ambertose life is going to provide you with 2 full grams of the ambertose, I'll just call it glyconutrient complex, per serving, so 4 grams per day. And in Nutriverus, you have 1.5 grams total of the glyconutrient and phytonutrient blend combined. So there's actually less than 1 gram of glyconutrient, so it is not the same.
So about a quarter. Well, we're just mere mortals, nothing like you, Dr. Nugent. And some people have noticed a change in the taste. Is it just different growing conditions or manufacturers or?
It probably is the fact that we've changed suppliers, and before there was a certain taste with the Indian mustard plant that obviously now that we're getting most of our nutrients from baker's yeast, there is going to be a different taste. And remember that plants differ by crop, and this is why you can sometimes see darker or lighter specks in Nutriverus in one container but not in another container, and that goes with plant material. That just sort of naturally occurs.
Okay, perfect. And the final question is, and I know you covered it sort of, but can you just clarify, many people have concerns when they say yeast and dairy on the label. Can you help people that have those concerns?
Sure. Well, if we could have gotten TGA to accept the calcium we wanted to use, we wouldn't use the whey mineral blend. But because they wouldn't, they recognize calcium from milk. And okay, fine. So that's what we had to do. And so the whey mineral blend has been run through 3 different what's the best way for me to say it? It's gone through 3 different processes to remove casein. Now, as far as lactose is concerned, and there are 3 things with milk. Some people are simply philosophically opposed to consuming anything from an animal. Okay, well, I can't address that because that's philosophy, and I'm a science guy, not a philosopher. So the second thing would be casein, which is what people are allergic to in milk. If they are allergic to casein. And then the last thing, the most common thing, is lactose. Lactose is a sugar that naturally occurs in milk, and you need an enzyme called lactase to break it down. There are many races. As an example, there are certain Asian groups that don't produce lactase after the age of 2, or they produce so little that they just have a lot of just serious distress. If you try and eat something that you don't have an enzyme to break down, you're going to have gas, bloating, cramping, diarrhea, all that kind of stuff. It's not an allergy. It's just your body not able to digest it, and that's all it is. And a lot of people mistake that then for some terrible, dastardly thing that's surely going to kill them, or an allergy, and that's not what it is. It's just a lack of an enzyme. There is a very, very tiny amount of lactose. You cannot completely remove the lactose in the processing. We just haven't found a way to do that. The amount is so small, it's about 1/20th of the amount that the World Health Organization says would naturally cause lactose intolerance reactions. Then the other issue with the casein, we go through 3 micro processes, filtration processes, to remove casein. We have not seen any casein in any of the batches that have survived these 3 filtration processes. However, it is our standard statement to say, if you know that you're allergic to milk or you suspect that you are allergic to milk, then you need to talk with your physician, and don't use this product until you talk with your physician about it. So those are the 3 aspects with that. And then the thing with yeast. People misunderstand yeast all the time because there are more than 600 different yeasts that I might talk with you about at any given moment. There are 4 categories of yeasts. I mean, they go into like 4 separate pillars, if you will. The one that we use is not the one that causes problems in people. So people think, well, it's yeast and all yeast is the same. No, that's not true. That would be like saying all sugars are the same. Well, clearly, table sugar and mannose sugar from aloe are not the same. They're different. Okay, so we don't use any yeast that can increase, because people, when they say yeast, what they're usually talking about is an organism called Candida albicans, or some people say Candida albicans. That organism can cause vaginal yeast infections. It can cause systemic health problems if you have leaky gut syndrome, and the list goes on. We use baker's yeast. We deactivate the yeast before we extract the nutrition. Now, we don't have to, because it doesn't cause Candida to go crazy anyway. It doesn't feed Candida, but we deactivate it anyway so that we can say to our consumers, please don't be concerned. This yeast has been deactivated before we remove the nutrition from it. So there's no concern, absolutely no concern scientifically for anyone with what they think of as yeast, which is Candida, and baker's yeast, which is what we use to produce our minerals and some of the vitamins.
Perfect, Dr. Nugent. Thank you so very much. There's just so much gratitude in the chat for us having this resource and you making yourself available to us. And we also understand that you've just had a promotion at corporate, Senior Executive Officer at Management.
Yeah, boy, the word's gotten out fast on that. I was kind of surprised. They asked me to join what the company calls the SEO, or the Senior Executive Office. They tell me that there's another promotion involved with that. I'm not going to hold my breath. I've been with the company for a very, very long time, and I've never been promoted, so I'm not going to hold my breath on that. But after the board of directors meets, we'll find out what they have in mind. But I am part of the SEO. I'm very happy about that. My very first SEO meeting, which was this last Tuesday, I had a tremendous opportunity to inform and convince people about a lot of things with product that I was hoping that we would start to do for our associates. So I'm really happy about that. It's a really good thing.
Dr. Nugent, huge congratulations from all of us. That's fantastic. It's a real asset for Manatech and for the field. And thank you for being here. We look forward to seeing you, I think, in a few weeks again with the in-depth look at the omegas. And I sort of have a secret wish, once we get past all these trainings and make sure they're all on record, that we start doing some interview type calls again, because I know they really, really help, and some of them are dated now, the ones that are in the archive. So have a fabulous weekend. And everybody else as well. Congratulations to all of you who are listening live and later. And next week is a business-focused call with an outstanding young man, JP Coster. So have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.